Welcome to Politically Unstable with Charles Hurt, the Washington Times opinion editor. I'm your host, Andy Parks, and I'd like to remind you that you qualify for a 50% discount on an annual digital subscription to the Washington Times simply by going to washingtontimes.com/Andy. That's washingtontimes.com/ANDY. And now, as promised, Washington Times opinion editor Charlie Hurt. Hello, Charlie.
Hey, Andy. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to you. Forever 21. Merry Christmas and let's go, Brandon. You know, this guy, Biden, he's taking a lot of heat, but my question is, does he know it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know that he does know it, right? I mean, he and the First Lady called Santa Claus, or NORAD, to track Santa Claus, and wound up on the phone with a dad from Oregon. And the guy comes back with Merry Christmas and let's go, Brandon. And the funniest part of it is the look on Jill Biden's face when the guy says it, because she clearly gets what's going on. She sort of clenches her jaw. He has absolutely no idea. His only response is, yeah, let's go, Brandon.
Yeah, that was funny. Well, at least he's managed to unite us all with one simple phrase.
That's right. That's right. Despite his best efforts, because if you listen to the words, he does everything he can to divide people.
Yep.
Yet he is still managing, despite all of that, to unify us in a way that I don't think he intended. But I really do think that this administration will go down in history. We'll look back at this and see it for being as extraordinary as it really is,
Yeah.
because the way that he levels vitriol at millions of Americans when he talks about the vaccinated and the unvaccinated and the threat that the unvaccinated pose to the rest of Americans. And I mean, it's really hateful, diabolical speech. That's not the sort of thing, he works for us. You don't speak like that to the American people.
That's right.
Yet he does.
This little encounter with Jared Schmeck from Oregon, the lefty networks went crazy over this, saying it's so disrespectful. Oh, it's awful to do this to a sitting president of the United States, although they had no problem at all with Kathy Griffin holding a bloody Trump head before the cameras.
Yeah, it's a real strange time for these people to become all prude. The whole thing about the Let's Go Brandon thing, I think it's the classiest thing on earth, is that the whole point of it is that it's people who do not want to use vulgarity and are not using vulgarity. And of course, the way it got started was at college campuses in particular. The first I'd heard of it was at Liberty University, where you have a bunch of good, nice Christian students who don't want to use foul language. And so they started using the Let's Go Brandon thing because they so badly wanted to do the full-throated FJB chant, but their good manners prevented them from doing it. But this one they could do. Let's go, Brandon. They can do that.
Yep. One of your earlier columns, Render unto Biden the coals of tyranny. Politics, that's another word for cesspool?
Yeah. It goes back to the whole thing that, talking about the masking and the vaccines. This is the kind of divisiveness that this guy has engendered. Something that we've never seen before, and I hope we never see it again. It's truly remarkable. And the fact that there's so many people in the media who would rather sort of focus on conspiracy theories about January 6th or whatever, all this other stupid stuff, instead of focusing on one single thing that matters the most, which is you're elected president, you work for the American people, you do not speak to us like that. End of story.
We now see why we separated church and state, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's not because today is that they wanted to keep church and religion and faith out of government. That of course is not why the founders very wisely wanted to separate church and state. The reason they wanted to separate church and state is because they wanted to keep the state from infecting the church and ruining the church.
I got to ask you, what do you see happening in 2022 from the Biden administration?
I think it's going to be very dangerous, actually. I mean, normally you have an election year. Nothing ever gets done in an election year because politicians are first and foremost terrified of losing their jobs. And so that's when all legislation goes to die in election years. But I think that the writing's on the wall. It's very clear that Democrats are going to lose the House. There is a very good chance that they could wind up losing the Senate. And I think that, you would like to think that this would cause them to sort of trim their sails a little bit, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think that they're going to go for broke. I think they're going to be desperate. I don't think it'll just be Joe Biden. I think it'll be, Nancy Pelosi is about to go down in history as the first woman Speaker of the House to lose the House twice, which is pretty extraordinary.
Yeah.
And when that happened, and I think that she realizes, and I think Chuck Schumer probably does too, that if they want to get things done, this is the time to get things done. I think there is a real threat that they will do everything they can to try to kill the filibuster. The thing they're going to try to kill the filibuster on is it won't be for healthcare, free healthcare for all, or open borders, or all this other stuff that they campaign on. It's going to be on so-called election reform. Well, election reform is only one thing. That is a Democrat governance insurance plan. Is all election reform is. It's a gambit to make sure that Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi retain their power. And so it's kind of interesting that that's what they're going to break the whole system for. They're not going to break it to help the people. They're not going to break it to give free healthcare to people. They're going to break it in order to augment and cement their own power, which is really extraordinary.
Yep. Folks, you can read all of Charlie's columns at WashingtonTimes.com. Before I let you run, how are you going to be celebrating the arrival of the new year?
We're going to be going to Florida, and we're going to go shark fishing in the Gulf.
Wow, how about that?
Should be really good.
No kidding. Oh, you don't mean Democrats. You mean sharks.
Well, if we see some of them, I'm sure we'll hook some of them as well.
All right. Did you call Fauci first to get permission?
Fauci knows what he can go do. He can go pound sand. I'll just say that.
Good shark bait.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, my friend. Have a good week. Happy New Year, and we'll do it again.
Happy New Year to you, man. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Politically Unstable with Charlie Hurt. As I mentioned, you can read all of Charlie's columns at WashingtonTimes.com. And while you're there, check out our great selection of podcasts. I'm Andy Parks. Have a great day, and Happy New Year.